Alright everyone, it's Mr. Ops again, and we are still talking about factoring quadratics, but this time a is not 1. And so the number in front of the x squared, this coefficient, where it's not equal to 1. But when that happens, so you always look out for a common factor first. So for example, let's try this one here. We have this scenario, and we have 3x squared 15x minus 72. Now there's a hint for us here. All of these terms have a 3 in common. Because we can pull out a factor of 3, we're left with this scenario, and from here we can do our magic question. And the magic question, we can help set it up here, is I'm going to look at x squared minus 24. What two numbers multiply to get 24 negative and add to get a positive 5? So if I think about the factors of 24, I know I have 8 and 3. And if I can go an 8 and a 3, and I want it to be positive and negative. And so my factor is going to be x plus 8 and x minus 3. Okay, hopefully you guessed first and checked it out. If you haven't, hide what you've done and try it again without looking at your paper. Here's try another one. So take a moment, guess first, pause the video, try it on your own first. This is the one's a little bit tricky. Okay, so when I have this, it's written in a funny way. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull out a negative 10x. Okay, and I can't really fit it in here, so I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to pull out a negative 10x. So when I do it to here, it means I get a positive or negative 6, a negative x, and a positive x squared. And if I rewrite that as negative 10x, and I'm going to put the x squared first so it's in a familiar form to me, the negative x and the negative 6 as such. And the reason why I pull out the negative, because if I didn't, then I would have a negative x squared and then 1. This a value would be negative 1, and I want it to be positive 1 when possible. And so now I'm going to have to, if I fill out this cross, one of the tricks I can do is I'm just going to multiply these terms together here. I put the negative x here, and I ask myself what two numbers multiply to get negative 6x and add to get negative x. Well, a 3x and a 2x, I can put them together in such a way so they multiply to get negative 6 if this is negative and this one's positive. And so then it factors to negative 10x, parentheses, x plus 2 and the x minus 3. And having the x's here, I've changed it up slightly in the sense that when you see this, it's getting us ready for the ones that are more challenging. But this here is the full factorization. See how you did. Now, the next problem here, a is 5. It is not 1. And so the first thing we do is we check for a common factor. None of these terms have a common factor, so we're kind of stuck. Now, this process to factor it, I wanted to get to this form at the end. And to do it, it's a pretty long process to try and figure it out. And so the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two terms together, which is a negative 15x squared. And that goes down here in my x. Then I'm going to take the 14x and put the positive 14x here. Okay? Now, now I ask myself the magic question. I love the magic question. What two numbers multiply to get negative 15 and add to get 14? Well, if that's the case, I know 15 and 1x. And if I want it to be positive 14, this has to be positive and this has to be negative. Now, when I go to the box here, This box represents the area of this whole piece here. And so what happens is this 5x squared goes into this first box here. This -3 goes into this bottom box here in the corner. And then finally, this 14x. Well, 14x has two places to fill it in. Well, lo and behold, the 15x and the -1x make the 14x. That's what goes into here and to here. So this is 15x, positive 15x, and a -x. Okay, and now, so we have to keep track of that. So just make sure the first term goes in the top box here, the last term in the bottom right-hand side, and the 14, which comprise of -x and 15x, go in the other two boxes. Now, on the outside, we look at this column here and we think about common factors. What is common between 5x squared and 15x? Well, that is a 5x, a positive 5x. I think about here, what's common between -x and -3? Well, the negative in this box is the boss, and so I'm going to pull out a -1 from both those. Now I look across this direction. What's common between 5x squared and -x? Well, I can pull out an x. This sign is the boss. And then finally, if I look at 15x and -3, well, this sign is the boss sign, so this is a positive, and it can pull out a +3. And so putting it all together, this is my one factor. This is my one factor here, 5x minus 1. And this is my other factor, x plus 3. And if we check this, first term is 5x squared, works. I get a 15x here, and I get a -x here, and they make a 14x, and then the last term is -3, and it all works out. So it's quite a few steps to get to this factorization, but it is quite a process to go from here to this factorization. It's all a matter of working through the process in this box. Let's try one more example here. All right, so step number 1, we multiply these two terms together, which is -36x squared. Step 2, -5x goes up top here. Then we ask ourselves the magic question. What two numbers multiply to get -36 and add to get -5? Well, 36 I know is 9 times 4. And I want a -5, so that is a -5x. All right, so we've done this in the past. Now we have to go to this box. So I know 6x squared goes here. -6 goes in the back column. This middle term has to go in these two, so that comprise, those two together are that middle term, -5x. So either way I do it, -9x and a 4x. These can be switched around, the other ones do not switch them around. And now it's a matter of pulling out common factors between 6x squared and 4x. I get a common factor of 2x from both of those. Common factor between -9x and -6. Well, and remember this is the boss common for the sign, so -3. Going up this direction, 6x squared and 9x. This is the boss because it's the top, it's the one closest to where I'm going to pull the factor, and it's going to be a 3x. If I look here, 4x is the boss, and it's going to be a 2 common factor. And so when I put it all together, I get a 3x plus 2 from the top, and a 2x minus 3. And if I check it, I get these two make 6x squared. If I think about a double happy face, I get a 4x positive and a 9x negative, and that is the negative 5x. And then the last one, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. This is the factorization of 6x squared minus 5x minus 6. A lot of steps to it.